In today's video, we're reacting to Build 2026 announcements. So, welcome to our AI Era podcast. Hi, Tina. How are you doing?
I'm very good, and it's been a busy week because I've been watching all of the build keynotes and sessions, and I'm super excited to discuss that with you.
So, before we jump in, Tina, do you have our concept of the week so we can start with our tradition here?
Yes, so my concept of the week is called semantic dilution, and I hope I pronounce it correctly. What I mean is, the same way that you dilute water or some drink that's too strong. The thing that I've noticed this week is that a lot of the AI terms, which have some semantic meaning, are being diluted by using them for different things. It's kind of hard to understand if I just explain it in abstract terms. So I'll give an example. We've discussed many times on the show skills, and I really see now that skills are being used for so many things. So you can talk about personal skills, you can talk about skills that are part of plugins or that are part of, built into some MTP server. So there are all these different ways of skills, and because we use it for different things, we see this semantic dilution where we have the gradual loss of the term's original meaning because it's just being used for everything. I saw a post on LinkedIn where they were releasing a new feature and then they used the word harness. And then underneath using it, they had like a definition. They were like, oh, when we say harness, this is what we mean. And that's also because everyone is using harness for anything now. So it doesn't really mean anything anymore. So that's a warning for anything that you're reading or hearing or someone is saying to you about AI. When they use a term, like be sure to ask them what they actually mean because it doesn't really mean that what they say is the same word or concept that you think it is. Have you seen this, Ragnar?
It's fascinating. I'm happy you brought this up because even for our viewers, sometimes we say these words and we always preface what it means. Like you explained, Tina, what you meant by semantic delusion is different. And for me, it's more important because what's happening is a lot of people are not even reading sometimes. They use an AI agent to go review some page or, watch a video. In those cases, AI could be completely deleted, right? So it's going to
Yes.
dilute all of the context of the video unless you know what is the topic about. So that's a really good thing to keep an eye out and make sure you're aware of it, even if you're using AI tools. I like that a
Yes.
lot. Okay.
100%. So tell me, what is your AI concept of the week?
In my old days, I worked for pharmaceutical companies. So on-device AI is what I want to explain today. And I think there are a lot of slight things that people think, what does on-device AI mean? So I want to bring that semantic awareness to this. On-device means privacy, latency, cost, or offline capability is what we think about. But in my view, on-device AI means you are also protecting a lot of that privacy within your device. In 6 months ago, I remember 9 months ago, Tina, when I use Olama or other Olama on-device AI agents, the issue was I can only use the model's intelligence when it was trained. But now the beauty is the RAG and other things have become so popular, and as well as MCPs and Playwright so good now that you can use an on-device AI, but it is connected to internet. So that opens up a lot of things. You can retrieve the data from online and do all the compute on your own device. So if you have your personal information or something you want to do, you don't have to give that to another provider outside of your company. So when you have an online on-device AI, you can retrieve all your personal information into your compute and as well as use it to do the AI things that you want to do, like analysis, all the things. But now on-device AI is taking a complete different, it's getting a facelift in a way to use it with the internet. On-device AI doesn't mean it only has data from September 2022, right? Though it has the data from there, it is capable of going and fetching new data. Like one of the examples I can say is previously, if you're doing on-device AI and coding, it only knows the code that you knew or it was trained on. But now that same on-device AI can go to a GitHub repo and fetch the latest code syntax that was not trained on and use that as a context and work on the code that you want to build. So I'm very excited for this on-device AI. And we'll talk in the next section about that too. So I'm excited for that.
It points to really how biodiverse the ecosystem has become. We used to just have chatbots, and there was one way to interact with them through the browser. And the way that we interact with AI has just completely changed to also allowing on device. And maybe we can pivot this to talk about build. One of the things that you pointed out to me is that it was just really nice to watch Satya talk about these things and see the way that he structured the keynote. You pointed out that his top takeaway was right at the start, right? So he started with how do we build a frontier intelligence ecosystem, and that's kind of what he set up the whole session with this line. What do you think? What stood out to you besides the sort of really jumping in straight with the meat of the session?
And for me, the main thing was around this year's build was literally about not about a chatbot or not about an agent. If we really looked at the whole thing, it was all about that ecosystem, like you mentioned, right? So he was tying Microsoft, Windows, GitHub, and like I mentioned, the local AI, your own laptop to get that AI agentic experience and to bring. And I know in our next sections with Scout, you'll help us a lot more to understand. But the whole keynote was mostly around compute, models, context, tools, runtime, and security. But like again, you mentioned the semantic semantic delusion. These all words only make sense if you read the whole thing. And he was really trying to connect them all with that ecosystem. So agents need a real workplace around them, not just a chat window or something. So I'm very excited to dive into this episode today, Tina.
Me too. And maybe I can just call out the things that stood out to me as someone working on business application problems is the Work IQ, but which is now GA, but also the Work IQ API, which means that you can use Work IQ from any agent. So we're no longer, it's not even that it's about the Microsoft stack, it's about the entire ecosystem stack outside of Microsoft products. They also mentioned the Web IQ, which I think is interesting, also allowing any agent to access the web. Then, of course, we have to talk about Microsoft Scout. We have an entire podcast which we recorded when it was still called Claw Pilot and was only internal. So we'll link to the Claw Pilot video here, but that is now called Microsoft Scout, and we'll dive into what that means and how that ties with the whole strategy on autopilot. And then, of course, frontier tuning is also interesting, right? The fact that you can have your own models and train them for your company. But let's get into it a bit deeper. Ragnar, I know that you like local AI. You've also for a long time been interested in SLMs, or small language models. And I know you have a really popular video on SLMs, small language models, that we could link here. So maybe with that in mind, what stood out to you in this build?
I'm very excited in the local AI value that Microsoft is bringing, especially the round trip cost to cloud. It's not all only about the cost that we are talking here. A lot of small things that you do. I noticed myself, and even we all have been doing this before, like to just fix a small grammar, we usually go to ChatGPT and paste it, and we don't know how much compute it's taking, how much e-waste in terms of AI is happening too. He speaks just a bit about that on the top, but I like the idea of that thing happening, and our partnership with NVIDIA and others are also is very something that I'm very excited. To bringing that agentic loop right within your own device is going to be much more useful for users in my view, because now you not only connect or copy everything and paste it into a chatbot. Now your whole Windows can act as a AI system or a whole device. There are a few things that they shared that I'm very excited about. I know these are some product words, so I'll try my best to say the right things. But Aeon 1.0, the plan model. So in our AI models, we used to use plan or act or ask, right? So now they built that whole plan model that is internal. So if you're thinking of doing something, you can plan with that model, which is only a 14 billion parameter model. And I think, Tina, we definitely have to make a video on what does 14 billion parameter mean? What is the meaning of that? Like you mentioned, semantic delusion. What does that mean? It's a keyword. What does each segment do? So we'll definitely work on that one. The other one also they launched is Aeon 1.0 Instruct, a smaller on-device model to write the summaries and rewrites and accessibilities that we were talking about. So maybe it can review a page for you. You can take a screenshot and it can tell you what those things are. It doesn't have to go off device for you. And then the most exciting one was when Jensen and Satya were talking about the RTX Spark Dev Box. Tina, I'm very excited for this. I would love to have this on my table right now. So it has, and the way they have shown that it can run up to 120 billion parameter model is crazy. I think like so far we have been able to run like a 5 billion, 2 billion parameter model. So if you think 120 billion, it could be OPS 4.8, right? So I'm very excited to see that we can bring these models locally now. Not only it means that you are taking away all the e-waste in terms of AI tokens outside on cloud, you know exactly what you're using it for. But most importantly, it does not matter how many tokens you use. I'm excited to see how this works with our Scout that you're going to speak later as well, because on device it can use any number of tokens, no one's stopping it. So how would that change the way how we use is going to be important. And I want to talk about why I care about this or what it means for us. So privacy story, like I mentioned in my top on-device AI, is very important. You have your own private code base, maybe you have error logs. You can do all of this on device. But with the new facelift, you can actually connect to your GitHub, and the on device will work with your online coding device, and you can with your team maybe. Satya's inference on that mantra was tokens per dollar per watt, right? So he was talking a lot about that. Local compute means free tokens. You're already paid for this hardware, and you're just using a little bit of electricity in your own house. So you know exactly how much tokens per watt you might be using. But most importantly, speed. So interactions with such big things like RTX Spark or something, what happens is the speed becomes so fast now on local devices. And I really like this way of advancements from Nvidia and others, because now they are not just selling it to the big companies, they are bringing it to every developer in every company to be able to do that on-device things. So I have a question, Tina, then maybe. What do you think is your view on all of this? I'm excited a lot on this. So what do you think?
I love it. I think one of the things that's really in the news these days is how data centers will not be able to keep up with the demand for running AI. And I think this is a great solution to say like, hey, can we each just run our own AI that solves a bunch of these problems? And you also sort of alluded to the costs of running models in the cloud. I got it. I saw a joke this week on LinkedIn, and I know that this has gone completely viral because I also got it as a message from my partner, who is not as much into AI news than me. So everyone in the world must have seen it. It's basically a message interaction where a woman writes to her boyfriend, "Hey, there's $15,000 out of our checking account. Is it what I think it is?" And then like emojis of an engagement ring, and then there's just a screenshot of his Anthropic bill. There's a huge outcry now for how expensive it is to actually use AI. So if you could run that locally, I think that would definitely make a difference. And what I also find interesting is there's a huge shift within the entire industry to have more people that are really deep into AI. So what I mean with that is not just developers that use AI, but really people that understand how to use models, how to train models, really people who have, advanced degrees in AI. And I think that also points to this, that we're really going to have machines that are designed for AI specialists more than just creators and vibe coders.
Agreed. And I also see this thing like, especially in healthcare, Tina, one of my neighbors is a radiologist, right? So he was thinking he does all these scans and all the brain and like all these complex things that required like a visual model. He tried Cloud Code or other things where he could analyze and study more or deep, but he's very afraid to put any customer data into it or something like that. Imagine
Yes.
in hospitals and big devices, they have this RTX machine that can visually read. If it's a big model that has visual thing as well, you could put a scan of your brain or something, and it has context of his own things over the months and days that he uses. It can give diagnosis, or it can give him things without sharing any of that information outside his own device without connecting to the internet. Imagine that would unlock a lot of these concerns about privacy or sensitive data or something. That would definitely go away, is my thinking. I also think that this AI PC was the term that we were using for a while, right? That is actually becoming a reality, and to see that happen in just 2 years, or less than like a year now, is crazy for us. What do you have for us, Tina?
Well, so what I am more excited, I was a developer, now I'm more of a user. So I'm excited about the autopilots. And let me start by saying I think the word already is a bit controversial because I feel like when AI started, there was a huge push to using the word autonomous agents, and then there was sort of a backlash to using the word human in the loop more. It was kind of a ping pong from we really want users to be involved. Oh, we don't want people to be involved. Now we want people to be involved again. And the word autopilot kind of swings back to the side of like we don't need any people to oversee, which is interesting. But let's talk about the autopilots themselves. They are a sort of new class of autonomous agents, but I more than autonomous agents, I see them more as personal assistants. And we had this episode where we discussed Copilot. This is now called Microsoft Scout and is the flagship autopilot. And it is really more like an assistant. So it's something, it's like an OpenClaw with Work IQ. And it's really well connected with the tools that you already use, like Teams and Outlooks and OneDrive. But it's a desktop application, which, like you said, the localness of these announcements are just really interesting. So it's local, you have to sign in with your M365 tenant, and then it can do all of these sort of assistant tasks for you. One of the things that I also found interesting is that if you go to the install page, and we can link it down below, you'll see that it's not just something you can install and use. It's that it also has to be enrolled in Intune. It has to be connected to your, it has to be on a managed device. So it's really built for enterprise. And I don't know about you, but I've already kind of struggled to set it up for personal accounts. So it's going to be interesting to see how the adoption of this tool is, because it has to be adopted by enterprises and not by users, not in the same way that Word is adopted, but more, as an enterprise software.
So I also find it funny that I know Clopilot or Scout. I know sometimes we eat all this dog food, but also I don't know. I like the idea that you're saying about it's already in tune and everything. It doesn't mean you have Scout. It means you can do anything your company. It still comes with all the things, right? So is it
Yes.
coming with Work IQ or other things you're thinking in this?
Yeah, so it comes with this, with Work IQ and with this sort of enterprise governance. And we had a whole episode on this, so we don't have to go deep, but do you feel like it's a tool, or do you start to feel like it's really an assistant or a teammate that can do things for you?
So you shared a lot of things with me when we did that, and in our video we'll speak about that. But one thing I learned is everything is a tool unless you start using it more and more, then it becomes your necessary. Like a lot of the times we use tool once a month, then it's not a tool for me. It just
Mhm.
it becomes a tool is only a tool unless you really need it when you need it if it works. And from what we have used Clopilot, it does the job that we need it to do. So I feel like it's gonna become your assistant if you start using more. I like the heartbeat and the automations that it has. In those areas, I feel like it's an assistant. But if I have to do like something with my VS Code or other things, I still treat it as a tool. So I like the name Scout in a way. It's on your side. It's kind of doing few things than saying a full assistant. So that way, at least we are not completely saying it's a full autonomous assistant. But it runs on autopilot for sure. So I like the idea, and I've learned a lot from you and others on how you use Clopilot. And Literally, a lot of our projects are being built using just Copilot now, which is amazing.
Yes, and I'm gonna start practicing saying Scout instead of Copilot. So when I ask you this question, that's what I'll do. So I know that you've been using Microsoft Scout a lot for actually doing development because it's connected to GitHub Copilot, right? You actually can't even use it without GitHub Copilot, which also means that you will really have to think about how you do this for enterprises because that GitHub Copilot needs to be connected to models and have,
Yeah.
be able to run and spend tokens. So I know that you've been using it for really developing things with GitHub Copilot. So do you want to talk about maybe some of the other development announcements that were built?
Yes, Tina, I'm excited. But the other thing I'm very excited is, like you're saying, GitHub Copilot and all. I am very much interested in the distraction-free Windows for developers. As as I can see, we all have become developers now, right? So one of the things I really like about Satya is he did a podcast right after that where he speaks about it's not about your job is only designed to be a designer or a PM or something. Even in our own roles, we became from solution architects to building agents, developing code, developing other things. So in those areas, this Windows for Dev is something that I'm very excited because not only they speak about the distraction-free development, they also had this intelligent terminal. And I've been using some of the preview features on that. And when you go into the terminal, it already knows which kind of it knows on the top what are your issues, what are the other things. It intelligently knows everything on the top. And also Windows development configurations, they can help you set up this dev machine much more faster. And with these local AI models and other coming, I think it is a very important thing. The other thing also I really like was a lot of the times we are using a lot of these high-end or up-to-date technologies. Some are on Windows, some are on Mac, some are on Linux. But what Satya has revealed was the homebrew native Windows thing. Linux is also native in Windows. So this Windows dev environment is going to able to use all those things directly now, which not only helps us as users, but also someone who's developing these, they can just launch it on homebrew, put it on Linux or something that everyone can use, and not that they have to do one more thing for Windows users, one more thing for Mac users. So that is something I'm excited as well. And also the Defender running async at speed is something amazing. So the Defender with Git Aware is something also going to be very helpful. I don't know if you noticed that when they shared the demo, they had this Windows folder when they open, it knows the Git who have committed, who have saved the file. So that is already within your Windows now, which is amazing. So in my view, it lands a lot with vibe coders now because the whole experience assumes you are coding with an agent in the loop, right? Everything we do, we use an agent. So if you want to use a voice prompt, it's already there within that Windows machine. It's there in Windows for a while now, but now the voice prompting is run locally, and those things will help much faster. So agents can refactor code much faster. That's something I'm very excited about as well. So in my view, it's a very good thing for vibe coders. But what do you think, Tina? Did it excite you the way it's making me feel as well?
It did excite me. I'm not a developer anymore, but you're right that we're basically coding through everything that we do now, or at least prompting a lot of the work that we're doing. And I like the idea of it being a distraction-free device. One of the things I struggle with, and I think a lot of people are complaining with, is that AI has not actually made the work easier, right? It has just allowed us to do more work. And what I see a lot is that I'm just switching from agent to agent and autopilot to autopilot, clicking on allow, checking that it's doing its job, telling it no, that's bad, or telling it no, this deck is ugly. And so I think having having a distraction-free device, and especially like you said, all of these things will run faster, and it will not be that you'll have to wait for something to really execute. I think that's going to be a game changer.
Okay. So Tina, for my closing thought, I think I what I like is it's not like just a distraction free, but they're making Windows get out of your way. So now it becomes a
Yes.
device for you to just do the thing you want to do, and Windows becomes that layer of security and Intune things that you're speaking. So to
Yes.
wrap it up, Tina, let's maybe we have some key takeaways. I have two that I'm
Mhm.
thinking. So the first one I'm thinking is around AI moving onto your device, like we spoke, privacy, cost, but most importantly, secure. But the days of like when I spoke about small language model, it had to be a small model. But to see the announcement that you can run 120 billion parameter locally is very exciting for me. So that's the first takeaway from me.
So of course, I have to talk about agents and the autopilots. So especially, I think the shift is that these agents got an identity and they got a job. And Scout is going to allow us to, instead of like just asking AI and getting a response, to really assigning tasks. And just today, I used my Copilot, or I will call it Microsoft Scout, to do an entire expense report for me. Also, collecting the receipts from websites where it had to sign in, and invoices from my email. And at the same time, it was also writing draft emails as I had to respond to emails. It takes a first pass at my emails and suggests a response. And so a lot of the work I'm doing is just reviewing and seeing what it did. And I think this is a complete game changer.
Yeah, I think that assign is a very key thing. I'm very excited for
Mhm.
that and to try more of the Scout. So let's say that.
Yes.
And lastly, like the segments we did, the OS is now agent native, which is very exciting for me. The calm windows in the intelligent terminal is something that I'm excited to watch and see. So I'm also excited for hackathon that's coming. So I'll be using a lot of this. But for lastly, we want to say thank you so much for watching. We are very excited to bring more to the table. A lot of episodes are coming. Tina, thank you so much. And then we'll put all the show notes in the notes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. See everyone in the next one.
Bye.